Hi there, and welcome to Unfiltered Solopreneur, the podcast where we share real, unvarnished stories of people who dared to break free from the corporate grind. I'm your host, Nikhil, and I'm passionate about helping solopreneurs like you turn their dreams into reality. Now, have you ever felt stuck in your comfort zone, knowing you were meant for something better and bigger? Today's guest transformed that feeling into a force for nature. Starting with just 434 followers on LinkedIn and a vision, Julie Hruska turned a deeply personal moment, seeing her child asleep on a kindergarten classroom floor, into a catalyst that launched her incredible journey from teacher to elite performance coach. Blending psychology, neuroscience, and mindfulness, Julie now helps Fortune 500 leaders find their edge, all while raising three kids as a single mom. But her path wasn't a straight line to success. It was filled with pivots, challenges, and powerful lessons about what really matters in business and life. Here's a glimpse of what you'll discover. Own your story and your success. Julie's journey from teaching kindergarten to coaching Fortune 500 executives began with a deeply personal moment, seeing her youngest child asleep on a dirty classroom carpet. It's a reminder that breakthrough moments often come from deeply personal experiences. Use them to fuel your journey and build a business aligned with your values. Success isn't a checklist. Traditional markers of success, titles, houses, cars, don't guarantee happiness. Julie emphasizes that true success comes from internal clarity and alignment. As solopreneurs, we often chase external validation, but real fulfillment comes from defining what truly matters and committing to it. From band-aid fixes to root cause solutions, Julie moved from teaching yoga to high performance coaching because surface level solutions weren't enough. She now helps clients tackle limiting beliefs and deep rooted challenges. If you're relying on band-aids in your business or life, it's time to dig deeper and uncover the root causes of your challenges. Consistency trumps overnight success. Julie's LinkedIn following grew from 434 to over 100,000. And it was because she showed up consistently with high quality and meaningful content. Solopreneurs, remember to avoid the temptation of chasing shiny objects and instead stay disciplined and focus to your core offerings. Balance is about prioritization, not perfection. For Julie, balance isn't about dividing time equally. It's about staying true to her core values. By prioritizing her children and her clients, she has built a life and business that reflect what matters most to her. She reminds us that it's okay to say no for now and yes later when opportunities don't align with your current priorities. Julie leaves us with a powerful reminder. Success isn't about perfection. It's about starting and staying committed. And as she beautifully puts it, you cannot perfect anything unless you start. Join us for this unfiltered conversation about transformation, resilience, and the courage to chart your own path in business and life. See you on the other side. Julie Hruska, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to share all the wonderful things we have in store for your guests.
Yeah, I'm excited for our conversation because you have a pretty fascinating journey with lots of twists and turns. And, I'm going to dive right in so we can get into it. Now, I sort of alluded to your journey. Now, you come from Midwestern roots. You've served as a chief communications officer at a cybersecurity firm. You have a psychology degree. You've been a television host. And now you're a high performance coach to Fortune 500 companies. So can you walk us through your journey a little bit and sort of talk about when you decided to chart your own course or path?
Yes, absolutely. So I call myself an accidental entrepreneur. It was never my desire to create my own path, but it just sort of happened. As a single mother, I was a teacher, and it was very hard I had three kids at three different schools, and then there was my school and running around. I was just like, this is not working for me. And so from there, I got into yoga, mindfulness, and meditation, and did health and wellness coaching. And during that time, when I was teaching yoga and working with mindfulness and people, I realized that there was a root cause that I was missing, and that yoga was just a band-aid. But I really wanted to get to the deeper route. So I looked around. I was like, I don't really want to go back to school. I already have a master's degree, but what is some form of coaching program that could really help people deal with their root causes and then move beyond them to become the best version of themselves in their career, relationships, health, finances, the whole picture, what true success really is.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
no, go. It's fine. So that's where I started into becoming this high performance coach and strategist that I am today. And it did take a while. I found the High Performance Institute and became a certified high performance coach. And it was great. It's an amazing program. I'm still certified through the High Performance Institute, but they give you a curriculum and you take people through it.
Right.
And for clients at my level, they're past that. They're beyond the basics of coaching. So what I realized, my master's degree is in curriculum instruction, and I know how to make curriculums. So I form a specialized, customized program for
Mhm.
every single one of my clients. And I pull from the best that psychology, mindfulness, high performance techniques for your career, and neuroscience have. And I create each session to meet my clients' needs. And so that's how I evolved in that way.
Okay.
All of the things you listed before that
Yeah.
I have done, um, those were opportunities that came to me as I started to grow my brand because my brand really took off. Like you mentioned, I started in 2020 with 434 followers on LinkedIn. I'm over 100,000 now. It just took off because my messages were messages that really relate to all people and being
Yeah.
your best self because everyone has a next level. And that's what I do. I help people get there.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to come back and touch on that because I think there's a story there with the 434 followers and early hustle. But before that, I want to talk about something you mentioned to me when we first chatted, was that it was seeing your youngest child lying on a dirty floor that sort of became
Oh,
an impetus to
yeah.
drive you. Can you take us back to
Mm.
that moment and talk about how it continues to fuel you?
Yeah. So my youngest child was in kindergarten when I got divorced, and I was teaching kindergarten. And it was probably the next year when he was in first grade. He would come to my classroom afterwards. My other kids were at other schools. And he would come to my classroom and wait for me. And so I spent all day taking care of other people's kids. And then my son comes to me and he has to wait for me to work. And one day he was just so tired, he laid down on the carpet, which if anybody out there has ever been to a kindergarten classroom, the carpets are filthy, right? All the germs and the dirt and he fell asleep and I looked over at him and I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so I resigned at the end of that year. I started my own LLC, which was called Awaken Life Yoga. And I got into teaching yoga and doing mindfulness and health and wellness coaching. And from there, like I said, it evolved because that was just a band aid for people's root cause and issues. And so now I have, through another training that I'm finishing right now called RTT, it's I have a hypnotherapy license and I'm getting this certification so I can really deal with root cause in the subconscious to go even a deeper level.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I love how you sort of used each of these stages to sort of propel yourself further, right? But something you said was interesting to me, which is the band-aid. And I find a lot of people that I've talked to, there's so much, success is so, people talk so much about it in social media and everything that we see today, right? It almost feels like
Mm-hmm.
everyone achieves great success. And yet the level of unhappiness that seems to be
Mm-hmm.
out there, because when you scratch just a little bit under the surface, you find that people on paper may have everything, the house, a car, like the promotion, the title, but yet there's something missing, right? So I thought it was really interesting you talked about the band-aid. Can you talk
Mm-hmm.
a little bit about that in terms of um, your clients and how you sort of how you got there, I should say?
Yes, a lot of people come to me, they've reached the top level, they're chairman of the board, CEO, they've reached their top pinnacle of their career. They have the family, the cars, the house, yet something is still missing. And
Right.
that's where we get to, what is your definition of success? Because everybody has their own definition of success. And we were sold, at least in America, we're sold on this American dream. And so many people have followed it, but the cost is very high. The cost of climbing the corporate ladder usually means that your relationships don't get as much time, that your health maybe doesn't get as much time. There's always a sacrifice. And in that quest, a lot of people have climbed the ladder, gotten to a place where maybe their wife and they don't get along anymore, their husband and them don't get along anymore, maybe they don't speak to their kids. There are all of these terrible things that happen. And instead of going back and dealing with those issues, they tend to anesthetize themselves with
Right.
TV, drugs, alcohol, sex. I mean, everything. There are all sorts of things that we do to put the Band-Aid on. The healthier forms are yoga, exercise, right? Like, there are healthy forms of escapism, but you still don't want to spend your whole life doing that.
Yeah.
If you really want to be happy, you have to go right at it, and you have to define, you have to have clarity and define what success means for you. And then you have to commit to that path and you have to go for it. What does success mean in your career? What does success mean in your relationships? What does success mean with your health? And what does success mean in your finances? And so when you can really get clear on that vision, then you can build the life you desire.
Yeah, and it almost feels like I would say that if you can be happy with nothing, then you can be happy with everything, right? Because
Yes,
otherwise, it doesn't, like you said, all these things are just things we add on, or they're superficial
right.
and they don't really solve the deeper problem, right? Which I think is really interesting. And I almost feel like social media sort of sold this idea of overnight success. And I'm
Oh,
constantly telling
yes,
entrepreneurs there's no such thing, right? There isn't anything
absolutely.
like that that
No,
exists. Yeah.
and it was funny getting ready for this podcast. I was thinking, like, what would I tell entrepreneurs about, and especially solopreneurs, about the journey? And the reality is, it takes clarity, courage, and commitment. And the commitment part is where the rubber hits the road. The commitment part is the resilience. Like we were talking before we started, you have a rough day, right? Things don't
Yeah.
always go right. Maybe your computer doesn't work. Maybe, there are all these things that can happen, and it's life. I live in Asheville, North Carolina. We were hit by a devastating hurricane about 10 weeks ago. And it took my cell service, it took my Wi-Fi, my business had to stop. And
Yeah.
when that happens again, is that the most important thing in your life? Because if it is, there are going to be problems. You have to be resilient. You have to be able to go with the flow of what happens and not let it take you down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you need to sort of build that muscle internally, right? We look externally for things, like you said, to sort of bolster that, but you have to
Right.
start at the core, I think. So talking about
Absolutely.
talking about overnight success, you mentioned you started with 434 followers, right? Can you talk a little bit
Yes,
about
on
what
LinkedIn.
the early hustle looked like and how it shaped your
Oh,
perspective on success?
I lived on LinkedIn. So what happened was,
Yeah.
at the beginning, the very first day of lockdown, the night before that, I was still doing coaching and teaching yoga. So I had a nice yin and yang energy. I was doing two things that I love. But I knew I needed to phase out the yoga because people were getting confused from a
Right.
branding perspective. They were like, wait a second, are you going to make me do yoga when you're coaching me? Or, like, is that part of it? If I sign up to work with you as a coach, do I need to practice yoga? I'm like, absolutely not. So I was ready to shift in my mind. I just hadn't pulled the plug on my yoga career. And the night before lockdown, I knew that I just had to flip the switch. And I'm like, you are no longer a yoga instructor. You are full on high performance coach. Tomorrow, you're going to wake up and you're going to live on LinkedIn and you're going to be there until you have all the clients you need, because my in person networking was leaving. And that's
Right.
how I was getting clients, from in person networking. So when that's gone, what do you have? And at the time, yeah, I had a LinkedIn account. I joined in 2019. I made a few posts. They didn't go anywhere. I'm like, this is kind of silly, but I'll just keep my account. And I left it. And then in 2020, when it was time to pick it up, I started with videos and I made a daily video, and they'd be 1 to 3 minutes long. And I would just talk. I talk about a topic related to high performance, clarity, courage, energy, productivity, you know, limiting beliefs, all of the different topics. Luckily, there are a lot of topics related to performance. So I made daily videos. They started taking off. By that summer, I had 20,000 followers. And I thought that was the most amazing thing in the world. Like, it was so humbling. I'm so grateful. It was so humbling. But yeah, I mean, I just took off. And so when you mentioned like my board positions, or like the CCO for the Cybersecurity Global Alliance, those type of opportunities started flooding in. And you know, the TV show, all of this, it started flooding in. And I didn't realize is how challenging it was going to be to wear all of those hats.
Right.
And when you start to get to that point where you have all these opportunities flooding in, I was taking my eye off the prize, which is the core of my business, coaching.
Right.
And all of those were taking me away from coaching. So I got to the point where I didn't have as many coaching clients as I needed to hit my bottom line, but I was having lots of fun. You know, I was flying up to
Yeah.
Philadelphia to do my show, which was in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I was, you know, doing all this stuff with all of these people. It was lots of fun, but I wasn't making money. And long term, yes, those things will bring you money, being on podcasts, having your own TV show, all of that. But you make money off of the low level TV shows like that, off of advertising. Well, that takes
Right.
time to build up. So that was like a whole nother, could have been a whole nother stream of income, but it's also a whole nother stream of your energy going out.
Right.
And so I got back to the basics. What do I do? What is my focus? I'm a high performance coach and strategist. And when I refocused on my main offering, things just went really well.
Yeah, and that's a really important point, because as a solopreneur, again, you have a tendency, once things start clicking, to go down different rabbit holes, right? Because
Yes.
we do have opportunities. Once you put yourself out there, opportunities sort of start coming to you, and you show up
Yes.
consistently. So focus is really important.
Yeah, that laser focus on what is the core of what you do. And I would tell people, you stay there until you are so abundant, or whatever else your success markers are, until you've achieved that level of success, and it can go almost on autopilot. You know, it can run seamlessly. Then you can add on, but add on one thing at a time. I added on like 10 things at a time. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I can do that training over here. Oh yeah, you want me to come and help at your retreat, you know, international retreat? That sounds great. And let me do this and this and this. And it was so exciting, but it took me off course. And those are things, again, rookie mistakes. I'm a new entrepreneur, and I didn't have podcasts like this that I was aware of to listen to and to learn from. And so I was just really winging it on my own, and I made some mistakes, but now I'm back on track and everything feels great. And when I refocused and I really got down to that daily commitment, like at the beginning when I was just every day, this is my business development, this is my coaching, like those are my two focuses, life is good.
Yeah, you're right, because it is, but I think every solopreneur sort of has to go through that journey, right? Because there are always going to be distractions, there are always going to be shiny objects. And honestly, we live in a
Yes.
world where every time I blink, there's a new shiny object that
Yeah.
even corporations are guilty of this, chasing
Mm-hmm.
every new technology, shiny object
Right.
today, whether it makes sense or not, or moves you away from your core focus. So I think,
Right.
it is harder today to put the blinkers on than it used to be, maybe. So, you
Yeah,
know,
definitely. You do. You need those blinders, like, this
yeah.
is what I'm doing. And just
Blinder.
like horses and horse races, they have those. That's what you kind of need to do. And I think your podcast is a brilliant opportunity for solopreneurs to listen up and glean the wisdom of people who have been through the hard times. So hopefully they can avoid as many of those as possible.
Or just know that we all go through it, right? We've all been through it. Behind that
Yes.
success are the bumps in the road, right? Which is why it's
Yeah.
unfiltered solopreneur. We're not hiding there's no overnight success here.
Right? No, no.
It's
And
hard
that's
work.
even like, I'm so grateful for how fast my LinkedIn grew. But
Yeah,
all that does is give you connections. You still
right.
have to take that and convert those connections into clients. And that is not easy. So,
Yes.
yes, I was very, very blessed to have my social media grow. But there's this misperception out in the world that you can be big on social media and you're going to make money, and you see it more so, I'm on LinkedIn, but more so I see this on like Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Create this reel, do this, do this. And they have all these things, these lies that people buy into. If I do drop shipping, I'm going to be a multimillionaire by the end of the year. No, you're not. Like, you're just
No.
not. The reality is 99.9% of people who follow the bad advice on social media, like Instagram and Facebook. LinkedIn, I think, has really great advice and great wisdom because it's a business platform. But those other ones, TikTok, like you start looking at TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and those are social platforms. They're not business platforms. So if you're taking your business advice from them, you're probably going to hit a lot of walls.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I love that you raised that point because a lot of people think that likes translate into revenue and they don't. You still
Right.
have to offer,
No.
like you said, convert them by offering
Mhm.
something of value, right? Just a fun
Yes.
video is not going to get someone to open their wallet and give you their money.
No. It's,
Yeah.
to me, it's about high quality. So if you're creating content for social media, it has to have quality. It has to give people a new insight or something new to try. If you're just out there and, the whole thing with personal branding, yeah,
Yeah.
people want to know a little bit about you as a person, but the basics, you don't need to go on there every day and go, oh my gosh, I had this terrible meal and blah, blah, blah. Like that doesn't matter. And there's so much irrelevance, even on LinkedIn, the cat and the dog videos and you know people find and curate information from other people. That's great, you can get a lot of clicks and likes there, but how is that building your brand? It's your brand then is what? Other people's stuff? That
Yeah.
doesn't really make you a thought leader. That doesn't
No.
really make you stand out. And so I know tons of people who have more followers than me, that have more likes than me on their cute little videos that have nothing to do with what they do. I actually don't know what a lot of people do because they're posting great videos, inspirational video they found on Instagram or Facebook, a cute thing that makes people laugh. Okay, are you a comedian? If you're a comedian, totally go with that. If you are a, animal welfare expert, definitely show the cute cats and dogs, but that's not what I do.
No.
So that would not make any sense for me as a high performance coach to be showing cat and dog videos. Although I did once with a dog, my own dog. I rescued a
Well,
dog during the hurricane and I showed my rescue dog.
that's different. I think that's showing a
Yeah,
slice a little bit behind the curtain, right?
yeah,
Versus like like you
definitely.
said, not like a CRM expert showing cat videos because that would not lead to a
Right,
lot of conversion. In fact, I spoke to somebody
right,
just last week and he was telling me he had a post go viral and expected it to turn into loads of business, like some,
right.
insane 15, 20,000 likes and 5,000
Mhm.
reshares. And he said not one person bought anything, not one conversion. And that was
Mm,
sort of a wake up call to say that, yeah, you can do, to your point,
right,
entertaining stuff, but it's got to be relevant. It's got to have value
right.
and it's got to be linked to the service you offer or your
Yeah.
expertise. Yeah.
And I literally, when I say I lived on LinkedIn, it
LinkedIn.
was
Yeah.
like I was on there from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I was
Wow.
on there like full on. At the time, it was the pandemic, so I could
Yeah.
do that. But
Right.
that's how I was able to grow my audience and get clients very fast. But most people, I've had a lot of people come to me and ask for guidance growing their brand.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly what I do. So if people are listening, don't call me for that. It's not my strong suit, but I've helped some other coaches with it. And again, you have to have a personal connection. You have to create quality content. And what I found them doing is trying to replicate me or trying to replicate another coach.
Yeah.
And you won't, you can't clone people. You can't copy people. That doesn't make you unique. You have to bring your unique abilities to social media. And not everyone needs to do that. That's another misperception, right? That you have
True.
to have a great, strong social media brand. You need to have a presence for when somebody looks you up because people are curious and they want to know. So you need to have a basic profile, and you probably need to, depending on what your business is, you probably need to have a basic website. But beyond that, I see people spending way too much time on social media. Like now that I have an established brand, I post 1 to 3 times a week. I have set limits of like 2 hours a day, and that's it
Yeah.
because I don't have time to live on LinkedIn anymore. I don't need to. You also have to look at your ROI,
Yeah.
right? Like, what's
True.
your return on your time there?
Absolutely. And we actually, you need to, as a solopreneur, you need to audit your time constantly, because if you're doing busy
Mhm.
work that's not moving the needle on your business, then you're wasting your
Yes,
most precious commodity is time. There's,
absolutely. And I remember when I started my first LLC. I'm on my second one now, Powerful Leaders. But when I started my first one, I remember putting so much emphasis on my website. And the reality is, who's looking at your website? Usually, now I use it as I send people who are interested in learning more about me, once they already know who I am, to
yeah.
my website. So I use LinkedIn to send people to my website. But people randomly, with all the hundreds of thousands of websites out there, hoping that your website gets discovered,
Yeah.
that's a tough one.
If you build it, they will not come. That's kind of the digital world we live in now. Yeah.
Right?
Honestly.
The
Yeah.
the reality is, though, and Grant Cardone said this, and some people love him, some people don't, but he has a lot of good points about building business. And he does say money follows attention.
Right.
Yes, but the caveat is good, positive attention for like high quality content or becoming known. Like if you're a speaker in your industry, whichever way you're putting yourself out to the world, you want to be the best at that. So you need to master your skills before you try to master your business. You have to have something, a amazing service that meets people's needs, or an incredible product that people need also, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, or a really great nice to have if it's a luxury item. But whatever it is, you need to master that before you try to go and put your brand out into the world.
Yeah, that's great advice, and that actually leads very nicely to my question about branding. So,
Mhm.
can you talk a little bit about how you've got a very, again, we talked about how you've got a fascinating background in psychology,
Mhm.
neuroscience, yoga, meditation, hypnotherapy, business. So,
Because
how
I wanted to be a master. That was the whole point. It sounds eclectic,
yeah.
right? Go ahead and ask your question.
No, no, I love it. I mean, I'm in awe. It's like awesome how you so. But my question is more about how it sort of influenced your approach to
Mhm.
building your brand and your personal communication.
Yeah, so I knew from just being a consumer of social media how useless most of it is. And
Yeah.
I wanted to equate my brand with high quality content because I consider myself an elite high performance coach.
Hmm.
I am not for the masses, I'm for the top. I'm for people that are already successful or at least have achieved mild levels of success, and they want to go higher. They want to reach the top. They want to be the best in their industry.
Right.
And so for me, I can't, I can't just put fluff out there. I really wanted to be high quality. And so that's also why I got rid of my old LLC and started a new one because I needed to shift the name. It was Awaken Life Yoga. And then when I became a coach, it was Awaken Life Coaching. Well, that's very fluffy sounding, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very fluffy. And corporate world is not going for fluffy. So I wanted the corporate contracts. I wanted to work with the Fortune 500 and predominantly Fortune 100 people. I needed a name to match that. So
Right.
I went with Powerful Leaders. It's super easy. I bought the domain from somebody else who had it, powerfulleaders.com, and created that. That became my brand. So it was Powerful Leaders LLC, powerfulleaders.com, and I went with it.
Yeah, and I love, because that's another thing, lesson I think valuable for people listening, is that
Mm-hmm.
you have to identify your niche, right? Before you
Mm-hmm.
build your brand. So you were very clear about the pivot you needed to make in order to
Right.
appeal to that audience. Because a lot of
Yes.
coaches, even coaches and solopreneurs I talk to, it's sort of like, it's let's throw stuff out there and see what sticks,
Oh, yes.
versus saying, let's focus on this very tiny niche. And tiny maybe,
Right.
it could be a big niche, but even within, like,
Right.
like just going after corporate world is not a target audience. Going after
Right.
CEO is not a target. You know what I mean? It's like you got to, within that, identify like the profile of person you want to talk to. So I love that you did that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely. And I don't want to exhaust myself. Energy is really important. So
yeah,
I'm not one of those coaches. I have a fellow coach friend who has like 150 clients. Okay. I don't know how you serve 150 people well. I razz him a lot about that, but that's how he does it. And
yeah,
he's happy and his people are happy. For me, I would like 10 clients at a time. I want to serve you so well that you get the rapid change you want to have, and then I move on. So my clients don't stay with me for years unless it's just check-ins, right? I call them high
right.
performance tune-ups, and we have those, monthly or quarterly to keep people on the right track. But I like to start and just go all in. We have weekly sessions and we attack and we get our three main objectives accomplished, and then you go. So I'm very fast paced, very hands on. Everything is customized. And so I knew that from the beginning, which then commands a higher price point. So
Sure. Yeah.
it is a certain group of people that I am working with, and it is typically executives, or if they're entrepreneurs that have experienced a high level of success and they're ready again to reach their next level.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, because as I said, a lot of people do it backwards, right? They try and like go and figure out what the largest percentage of audience is, and then try and see how they can sort of work their way backwards, which doesn't really work well,
Right,
because your message is too broad. Then it's not appealing to the right segment. And I always
right.
say people should be able to see themselves in your message, at least see the
Mhm.
problem that they're having that you can solve,
Right.
right? That's strong messaging. So
Absolutely. And
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, you go ahead.
I do think that that is still a challenge for me at times because high performance is so broad.
Yeah,
And when I go very specific, like on social media, on LinkedIn, when I go very specific, that would appeal just to my little piece of the pie audience, they don't perform as well. So there
oh yeah,
is that like,
balance.
okay, what's the mix to keep your yourself circulating? You want your post to circulate because if people don't see you, they can't hire you. That's
Sure.
the whole thing, right? Money follows attention. But at the same point, you don't want to be so broad
Yeah,
that
you're
it's
talking to
everyone.
everyone.
And that's one of the challenges I still think I face is there's that like this is going to perform really well. This is going to bring me clients.
Right.
And you have to know what what it's all about. Because one of my missions beyond just serving my clients on social media, I have a large following. Most of those people will never be my clients. The greater vision for me is to have a very positive impact on everybody's life. Everybody that
Right.
comes in contact with me and my content, I want it to positively affect them. And so I do a mix of now business development related posts and posts that I know if you are a random person that comes across me on LinkedIn, you will benefit from it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great, because you're right. You have to have a balance. It's just, I'm talking about not going too broad, right? Which is like
Oh,
trying to
yes.
appeal to everybody.
And
The-
it's hard. It's
It is
it's
hard.
hard.
And
Funny,
you have to
we've
constantly
got
evolve. Yeah, go ahead.
Right?
Sorry.
We have to upswing this
Yeah.
because I feel like we're like, gosh, it's so hard. So, what are the benefits of being a solopreneur? Freedom. We get
Yep.
back to my sweet son, Aaron, laying on the floor of my kindergarten classroom. I was giving my life to being a teacher. I was having a beautiful impact on the lives of these young people that I worked with. But I was going home at the end of the day exhausted. I was telling my son and my other two, um, my youngest son and my other two kids, that mommy needed a timeout and I would go take a bath or I would like unwind. Well, by the time that's all done, then it's dinner and I was working a second job teaching yoga because I was a single mom, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't focusing on my main priorities, which is my kids. And
Yeah.
so that shift, the shift of being a solopreneur and entrepreneur is freedom.
Hmm.
That's what you get. So all of the hard work and all of the sacrifice, short-term sacrifice for long-term gain, it's 100% worth it. I can work from anywhere. So
Yeah.
I can go on vacation. One summer I took my two younger kids to Europe for 5 weeks. We went to multiple countries. We had a great time, and I would pick a few hours a day to do my work.
Yep.
And that's what's on the other side. So for everyone listening out there that is excited about being a solopreneur and entrepreneur, yes, it's work, but yes, it's worth it.
Yeah, no, I agree, and well said, because you're right. But and I'm so glad you said the consistency, the hard work, the effort to get to the other side, right? Because there
Yes.
is a journey there, but you're absolutely right. The
Yeah.
freedom is worth its weight in gold.
Right. I mean, I
Not
can't even imagine if I had a boss. I, if I had someone telling me what I could and couldn't do, that just it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't.
Yeah.
And with my kids now, I have my two older kids have graduated high school. My daughter is about to graduate from NYU. I was able to fly up there, meet with clients in New York, visit my daughter. I've been able to travel. I've been able to do all the things I love. I can work my schedule around a yoga class I really want to take,
Yeah.
a lunch meeting I really want to have. I get the freedom to go to my son's choral concerts and attend every single musical he's in because nobody's telling me what to do. I control my own schedule, and that is so worth it.
Absolutely. And the other thing I love also is having the freedom to say no, right? Like when you come
Yes.
across people who are nasty, or I will say, assholes, like I've dealt with that
Yeah.
in the corporate world. You just have to suck it up in the corporate world. But here it's
Yeah.
like, no, you may take home a little less that month, but that's okay. The choice is yours, right? And I love
I
that.
fired. I have
Yeah.
fired clients. I fired earlier on, a few years back, I fired half my clients because I was so sick of the BS. They weren't showing up, they weren't doing the work. And, then I had people who hired me because they were single guys and they wanted to get to know me better.
Oh,
I
okay.
had
Yeah.
married guys try the same
Yeah.
thing, inappropriate behavior. And
Yep.
when you're in the workplace, what do? You might go to HR, you might file a complaint, whatever, or you just
Yeah.
suck it up. But for me, I'm like, I don't have to work with these people.
No.
Bye.
Yeah,
Done.
exactly.
And now I have a very challenging path to hire me because for the one-on-one coaching,
Yeah.
because I don't want to deal with all of that. So there's an application and there's an interview. And then we decide because I only want to work with people who are committed to being their best. I don't want all the jokers. So in the corporate world, it's a little easier because I can just say yes or no to the opportunities when I'm hired to do a training or come give a speech. But yeah, that freedom worth every bit of the hard
Yeah.
work.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing I always tell people is, be nice because people want to work, no matter how good you are in terms
Right.
of your expertise, people want to work with nice people, right? They don't want to work with people who are
Uh,
like, the opposite.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the misperceptions I had to address because in my personal branding, I travel and I'm a lot. I'm a handful. I wear cat eye sunglasses, and I'm a sassy person. And so I had to help people get to the nice side of me, because I think there are perceptions, and perception is reality for people. So in
Yeah.
your personal branding, you have to decide what you choose to share. I didn't want to be locked into a fake persona. So I
Hmm.
just share when I'm traveling and I'm wearing my sunglasses, I have a picture with my sunglasses. When I'm in my office, it might be a picture here. And the reason I talk about pictures versus the videos I used to do is because the algorithm changes.
Yeah.
And right now on LinkedIn, the algorithm is very heavy for picture posts. So people also have to get over that, because I hated taking selfies. I hated, like, at this point in my life, I did not want to have to become like a cover model
Yeah.
to sell my services. But the reality is, people do want to know who's behind the brand. And so that's part of it.
Well, maybe you can give me the courage to get there. I'm still not at the
Yeah.
selfie stage, but I know
See,
LinkedIn's
come
algorithms
on.
now are like they are thirsting for pictures of, like, stories of
Right.
you with you being featured in
Right.
it. So,
Yes.
but,
So
I get it.
that's going to
Yeah.
be my challenge to you, is you are going to take a picture of yourself working. It's not that hard. You can take a picture of yourself right here, just like this, pick up your phone, click, click. It is hard though. That was before COVID happened.
Yeah.
COVID forced me to get over my fear because it was necessity.
Yeah.
But before COVID, I remember my mentor challenged me to do videos. And I'm like, I don't want to do videos. I don't like my voice. And there are all of these limiting beliefs we have. The reality is, people don't care about that because it's not about you at all. The
Yeah. True.
content you create is about other people. It is about you helping other people. So you got to get past what you look like, what you sound like, all of that nonsense. That's focused on self. And if you're focused on yourself, you will not build a successful business. But when you take the focus off of you and you put the focus on your future clients, and you put the focus on your audience and the people that are listening to you, that's when you'll make the difference. And that was again a learning curve for me, because at the beginning it was so, oh my gosh, this and that, and I was self-critical, and all these limiting beliefs showed up. Another reason I got my hypnotherapy training and am working on a therapy license, because certification, because I wanted more of that subconscious, because we all have limiting beliefs. We all have things that hold us back, especially as solopreneurs. And
Yeah.
if you allow those things to hold you back, you'll never become who you're created to be.
Wait, so let me ask you, did you hypnotize yourself to get over the hump? Is that what I
You know
heard?
what? There is a form of self-hypnosis, but no,
Yeah, okay.
I was not trained at that time. But Marissa Peer, who is my mentor in that, she does hypnosis, and I did go through training with her and workshops with her for that.
That's great. Yeah, no, no, and you're right, because and the other thing that, I always talk about is that as solopreneurs, we are the brand, right? There's
Yeah,
no product or Apple or IBM to hide behind.
right?
We are selling our services, our expertise, and we are the face of the brand, right? So
We are.
it is absolutely
For better
important.
or for worse, right? And
Absolutely.
that is the first hurdle. I think that
Yeah.
is one of the early hurdles that solopreneurs have to face. You are the brand, so you need to become the best version of yourself. You need to get clear on who you are and what you're trying to do in the world and the impact you want to have. Then you have to have the courage to step beyond your fears, all that inner BS, all those limiting beliefs. Step beyond them. Focus on who you're serving and the positive impact you can have in the world, and then commit. And you wake up each and every day and you work your business.
Okay, I don't know if you did any hypnotherapy just now, but now I'm feeling like energized to do my first selfie tomorrow.
That's good. I'm so
Yeah,
excited. Well, I didn't, but I just made a case for it, right?
it was great.
And that's what I love about being a coach, because it is that helping people take a different perspective, helping people look at things from a different vantage point. sometimes we get in our own way. And that's the number one thing that will tank your business is you getting in your own way.
Yeah,
Focus on the people you serve and you'll be great.
true. And you'll get over yourself faster too,
Yeah.
right? Because we have to
Yeah,
all do that.
exactly. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still am very critical. I still look at my videos and my podcast and pictures with a critical eye.
Yeah.
But I've also learned, you know what? No one's ever perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect. I am a woman in my 40s. I am aging. This is life. And you just go with it. This is who I am. And the more success you have, the more confidence you get with it. And so another thing, I'm really grateful to LinkedIn because as I became more successful, I was less self-critical.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Competence and confidence, right?
Yeah, they sort of go together. I agree. And
Mm-hmm.
you become more comfortable in your own skin the more you do it, I
Yeah.
think, right? I
Yeah,
don't think
because
anyone ever is. Yeah.
it's out there. Like right
Yeah.
now, if you Google search me, the last time they say you should do that occasionally just to see what shows up, there are like 4 pages or more on just me. So I can't run, I can't hide, and I can't pretend I'm someone else because it's just out there. The podcasts, the articles I've written, the speaking engagements I've done, my LinkedIn, all of it. And that is my brand. But it's also 100% who I am because there needs to be alignment and congruence. You
Yeah.
need to have integrity. And that's another great point is
Yeah.
that your personal brand it doesn't have to be all of you. You don't have to
Mhm.
share. Don't
No.
overshare.
Yeah.
But the part you're sharing with the world, if you show up on a podcast, should be the same person you are at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Because if not, there's going to be a lack of congruence and it's really hard to pretend.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you raise a really good point about authenticity. Everyone's talking about authenticity, but I
Mm-hmm.
find a lot of people are interpreting authenticity as what they think people want them to be versus who they really
Yes.
are, right?
And authenticity is not oversharing,
No,
right?
absolutely not.
That's
Yeah, that I
like,
agree. I
oh
don't want to see
my,
your food.
I don't
Yeah.
need it. I don't need to know. It's something that was really shocking to me with all the political things going on. Like, are you a political correspondent? If you're not, why are you sharing your political views on a business platform? You can
True.
go on Facebook, go on Instagram, go TikTok, do all those social sites. But when you are on LinkedIn and it is a business platform, why are you sharing that? There are people that were sharing all their thoughts on all of the political twists and turns beyond the election. Um, I watched someone come out really strong against well, it's like a war, but a situation. And I watched her brand get brutally punished for it because she shared a view that the mainstream does not. And if
Yeah.
you're going to do that, you have to expect the consequences. So, again, authentic is me showing up the same on LinkedIn as I do in the grocery store or on the podcast as I do when I'm out with friends. But oversharing, you have to look at, does this benefit my audience? Does this benefit my clients? And if it doesn't, then don't share it.
Yeah, I agree because you don't check how your client voted before you take them on, right? I mean, it's pretty
Exactly.
irrelevant. Nor do you
Right.
stop to check when you're helping somebody. So I think it's like,
Right.
it just makes no sense to me, but I agree with you.
Right.
It's, yeah, you don't have to. So yeah, that's good advice. Don't show up with everything you've got, right? Just be a
Yes.
little
Oh
more
my gosh.
discerning about
Yes.
how
Be
you approach things.
discerning
Yeah.
about what you choose to share.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a little bit about now the pivots. You made so many different pivots, right? We talked about that a
Oh,
little
yes.
bit. And so what has it taught you about yourself and about your coaching?
About myself, it's showed me how resilient and how capable I am.
Yeah.
About my coaching, it's again not about what I have to offer, it's about what I can help my clients achieve. And so, my coaching, the reason I went into more neuroscience and the reason that I got more training with limiting beliefs and root cause is because I kept seeing those issues show up. It's
Yeah.
easy for me to identify the skill set deficiencies in someone. If you're a VP and you keep trying to get to C-suite and you're not getting to C-suite, it is easy for me to show up and, follow you around for a day at work and identify what you need to work on, communication skills, blah, blah, blah. But what people were showing up as is they were very capable in their careers, but something was holding them back. And typically it's a limiting belief. And so
Right.
I dove into that and I'm getting extra training, and I always am leveling myself up for my clients because I do want to be the best. So when you were talking about all the different things, it sounds very eclectic. And to an outsider, they might be like, what is she up to? My God, she has mindfulness, she has high performance, this hypnotherapy and neuroscience. How does it come together? Well, it comes together because it's not work-life balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all
Yep.
life.
Yep.
Your career, your relationships, your health, and your finances all create you. So why would we try to section one part out and focus on that? That's not high performance. If
Yeah.
you're really successful at work, but your relationships are failing, are you truly successful? Or if
Yeah.
your relationships and your work are great, but you're 70 pounds overweight and you don't have the energy and vitality to get through your workday and build your brand, then you need to deal with that. And so that's why I continue to get different trainings and continue to up level my game, because I see it with the clients I work with and I want to serve them better. And so now I think I have it.
Yeah.
Now there's
I,
like very few things I would continue to work on, but I keep leveling up my current skills because in neuroscience specifically, there's so much research coming now to prove things that we used to understand in
mm-hmm.
psychology and positive psychology, but we never really could prove with data. Now you can prove it. Now you can
Yeah.
prove that positive affirmations actually affect your success. And now you can prove that dealing with these limiting beliefs can unlock a power that will take you to your next level. All of the data is rushing in, and it's just such an exciting time to be in my field.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And I don't think your brand is fragmented at all. I think you have sort of the yin and yang, right, of
Yes,
what you need.
right.
And so that actually makes, so one of the things that I was thinking about was in terms of balance. We talked about balancing things before, right? So how do you sort of balance those sort of more mindfulness parts with the more tangible performance driven pieces that high performance sort of look for, right?
So again, everything's customized. So when I
Yeah.
meet a client, we have an initial high performance intensive that lasts about 90 minutes and we drill down. They also do a client intake form. So it's both fronts, but typically I do the easy stuff first. The skill set development is the easy
Right.
stuff. A lot of people are not open enough
To
to
the other
tell
parts.
you all
Right.
these things that might be holding them back on the first call. Some are, and then I deal with that first. But typically, I knock off the easy ones and get the quick wins, and
Yeah.
then go deeper.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because I know even from a to bring clients in, you sort of need to find that balance, right? Because there are a lot of people who still think of that as fluff.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right. And you have to also, you give the clients what they hire you for,
right.
and then you take them beyond
Deeper, right?
what they even imagined. So people come to me. I remember during the pandemic, somebody came to me. He's like, I'm struggling with productivity working from home. I'm like, no problem. I can solve that in like 2 sessions. And
Yeah,
then we did, and he was shocked. He couldn't believe it. And then I'm like, now do you want to get to the real issues? Let's really talk about what's behind your procrastination.
yes,
Because, yes, I can help you. I can give you tools and tactics and strategies to be more productive from home. But if you have tendencies for procrastination based on a limiting belief or based on laziness, whatever it is, we need to deal with that. Because
yeah,
if not, you're building on a broken foundation.
Yeah.
So when you think about building a house, if you have a bunch of trees in your lot and you cut them down, but you leave the stumps
Hmm.
and you put cement over
Yeah.
the stumps are going to break through.
Of course. Yeah.
That's going to show up. It's the same with limiting beliefs. If you don't excavate the limiting beliefs, they will pop up for the rest of your life, and they will pop up in every area, your career, relationships, health, finances. They're there and they will pull you off track. So you need to dig down, clear the lot, dig out the roots, throw them out. Then you have a smooth foundation for the strategies and the tools to build a really solid life on.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's like, so it's almost like you can give them the band-aid, but then say, okay, would you rather heal the wound,
Right.
right? Or just
Yes.
work with the band-aid, right? Yeah.
That's brilliant. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, I can give you the Band-Aid. Easy, not a problem. That
Yeah.
will take, a few hours. Okay, now do we want to get to the real issue?
Yeah.
And most of my clients are astonished by that because a lot of my clients are at the higher level, VPs on up, and they've achieved a lot of success in life, but they never really identified why they have some of the tendencies they have. And when they do, it's a game changer. And it's amazing and humbling to see grown men in particular cry
Yeah.
because they realize. I had a client that eats his feelings. So he was very successful in his career, but his health, he was having a lot of health issues show up, and it was affecting him in his relationship, and it was starting to affect him at work. But he had a very hard time stopping his bad habits. And once we were able to get to why he has the habits,
Yeah.
it was like, boom, light bulb moment, changed everything. And, one of my pronouns on LinkedIn right now is game changer.
Yeah.
That's what I aim to be. I aim to be a game changer in people's lives. I want to come in and I want to help you transform whatever is holding you back so you can thrive in all areas of your life.
I wish we'd done this podcast on Saturday when I was crying after my tech meltdown, but it's good to know. I,
And I get it. And
I,
that's the reality of entrepreneurship,
yeah.
is that the shit can hit the fan at any moment and you have to be able to adapt. So imagine if you had the skill set, right? If
Yeah.
you had that to say, okay, you know what, that happened, but I'm resilient. And you know how I know I'm resilient? Because I survived XYZ in my childhood, or I overcame XYZ in my early years of my career. You have that to build on. You have that positive mindset. You have the ability to reframe situations instead of, oh my gosh, this is a catastrophe, the world is over, I quit.
Yeah. True. No,
A lot of
absolutely.
people do.
Yeah.
You have the mindset to frame it and say, okay, that was a setback. What can I learn from this?
Yeah. True. No, that's a reservoir you need to build, right? And we all need to build it.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, you're a single mom and a successful entrepreneur. So how do you balance these roles, and what advice would you give to other solopreneurs who are also single parents who want to go on this journey?
You have to prioritize what matters most. So you have to look at, what are your core values? What matters most to you? For me, it was being present for my kids while creating an abundant lifestyle so they could have the experiences in life that I think are important. International travel was one of them. I think you become a more aware, better human being when
Yeah.
you are exposed to different cultures. And you don't necessarily have to travel internationally. You could go to a city like New York or Boston or San Francisco to get that melting pot. But for me, that was just something I really wanted my kids to see. So my focus was be present for my kids, make sure that they have what they need, and serve my clients at the same time. And so with that, everything goes through those filters. Is
Right.
this a priority? If not, it's a no. And that's where, when I did get off track a bit with, oh, I'm doing this with Cybersecurity Alliance and I'm doing this TV show and I'm doing all this stuff. Yes, I only had one left at home. because I had my kids really early. That's another
Yeah.
part of the story. But I had my kids in my early 20s. And so my kids are older now. I have just one left at home. But when I had all three at home, yes, it was a constant. You have to say no. And sometimes you have to say no right now, but yes later. Sometimes opportunities come that are amazing. I've had a few opportunities to move and to work in different places. I've had opportunities to do a lot more travel in my work, but I have a son that I'm still raising and he is with
Right.
me full time. And so, yes, he's a teenager. He can fend for himself occasionally, but I can't just go around the world and leave him behind. So I have this, when he graduates, my life will be different. I will be able to say yes to more of those opportunities. But right now, it doesn't hurt me to say no because I know they'll be there when I'm ready and when it's right for me and my family.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant advice because like have your why and then use those as your filters for the
Yes,
decisions you make, right? I think that's
a
great.
hundred
Yeah.
percent. When you are crystal clear, and that's what I talked about at the beginning, clarity is the foundation for all success. When
Yeah.
you're clear what your values are and what matters most to you, everything goes through that filter. Every single thing. So, like the podcast, we're on this podcast now. When I first started, I did every podcast. And because I was on LinkedIn and it was locked down, everyone was starting podcasts. I was on hundreds of podcasts. Half of them never even showed up in the world because those people didn't follow through. But the ones I was on, I had to start filtering that. I couldn't be on multiple podcasts a week because
Yeah.
that was taking away from my kids and my clients. So then I had to look at, okay, what podcast is this? Who's the audience? Does that further my business or further my mission to have a positive impact on the world? And if not, it doesn't happen. And so you continue to evolve and adapt your core values and what matters at certain points of your life. That also needs to shift with you because there's a time and place if you're a parent, especially a single parent, where your focus is your kids are your number one priority.
Yeah.
As they get older, then you have the time and you can shift to more of your career and the things that you love. And so it really is clarity on what matters most to you. And I don't like the word balance because balance implies you take from here to give to here, right?
Yeah.
If I want to have balance, I have to take away because right now this is heavy. And I don't like that. I like the idea of equanimity or flow. Sometimes you give more attention here because it's needed, and sometimes you give more attention over here.
Right.
But you know your core values, and everything goes through that filter.
Well, I'm honored and deeply appreciative that I made it through the filter and you were on the show.
You know, you did a brilliant job of clearly communicating who your audience was and what the purpose of your podcast was. And I could tell from our initial conversation that you are actually going to follow through. We will actually have video clips of this that can go out in, to my audience and to yours, and it will help people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that to me is important because, yeah, there are some really great, fun podcasts out there. But I remember being on one, it was a radio show related to sports. And I was talking about my favorite NFL team and da da da. We talked like this much about high performance, but did I need to do that? Right? It was fun,
Yeah.
but was it moving the needle for my career? No. And so now I'm more discerning. And that's, again, it's an evolution. You're not going to know it all. I've learned so much. I cannot believe how green I was back when I started all of this. I was so naive and I thought it was going to be so much easier. And I thought all I needed to do was be the best high performance coach out there, and that would be enough. But it's not. You do have to build the other components. You do have to have something to put out in the world in the form of content. You do have to have a website. You do have to have these things to have a real brand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have a business, but it
Right.
doesn't build the brand. And if you want to build an empire, right, and
Yeah.
have the speaking engagements and have the books. I was a co-author on a book. Some of those things, you have to become a master of your craft, and then you have to be wise and learn from your mistakes.
True, true. And so let me ask you then, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that we haven't covered?
I feel like this has been so comprehensive.
Yeah.
It's been great. You've been an awesome host and you've asked amazing questions. Um, I think I would just drive home the fact that if you are clear on your mission and you have the courage to step beyond yourself and put something out in the world, and then you're really committed to it, you can create an amazing life as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, great way to end the show and get to our rapid fire round. So I'm just going to
Have
throw
fun. Now,
five
this is the
fun
fun
questions.
stuff,
This is
right?
the fun stuff, right? Yeah, I'm not going to ask you about your favorite
Everyone
football team.
knows.
Yeah. Now
Everyone
we've
should know.
yes.
I
So
didn't know any of these questions, and I have no idea what he's about to ask me.
you didn't know any of the questions from the start of the
No,
show till
no,
now. So
this is all unfiltered.
absolutely. Thank you for the plug. Okay. So if your coaching style had a theme song, what would it be?
That's so good. It would probably be like a Rocky theme song, like
Yeah.
dun dun dun, just like pumped up. It would definitely be a pumped up theme song, yes, because it is all about that success and becoming the best at what you do.
I could totally see that. I hear the music now in my head.
Yeah, right?
What's the most unconventional piece of advice you've ever followed?
That's really good. The most unconventional advice I've ever followed. I adopted it for myself. Bite off more than you can chew and chew it. I saw it out somewhere and it hit me, and I'm like, what does that mean? And it means like go for those wildly audacious goals. If you have them, if they're in your heart, go get them. Do
Yeah.
it. Because people will say, oh, that's too much for you. Oh, you can't do all that. Oh my gosh, you're unrealistic. Well, realistic is boring. Why would you want to have a boring life? If you have a dream, go get it, seize it, make it happen.
Yeah, I love that. And you can always spit some out, right? If it's too much. But
Right?
why not bite off more
Exactly.
than you can chew? Yeah, I love that.
Exactly.
So, if you could invite any leader to a one-on-one coaching session, who would it be?
Any leader in the entire world.
It could be any. It could be captain of industry. It could be any kind of personality, famous personality.
Hmm. I think I'd like to talk to Jeff Bezos. He
Oh,
intrigues me. Find him interesting. I would like to pick his brain because he was one that sat in his garage. I saw a picture recently. It had like a spray painted Amazon.com on it, looked like a bed sheet hanging on his wall. And it evolved and he stayed the course, but he wasn't this wow personality. You didn't look at him and go, oh my gosh, he's so attractive, I want to look at his pictures on social media. Like, he wasn't that person. He was
yeah.
someone who believed in something and kept working and kept tweaking. I mean, if we recall, it started as like an online bookstore,
Yes.
and
Yeah. With him and
no
his.
one would
Yeah.
think
No.
that it would evolve into what it is today. So he was the first person that came to mind. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
love that.
it would be my like top choice. It would probably be some amazing like Nobel Peace Prize winner, but he's the first person that came to mind. So
No, and
rapid fire.
absolutely. And my only request is, could I be a fly on the wall when you do that coaching session?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
great. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? And how would you use it in your business?
Mm. I would want to heal the world. I would want some like not I'm not a weirdo and I'm not one of those like evangelists that puts my hands on people and you're healed. But I wish I could. I wish that I could just give people the healing they need, whether it's in their hearts and their souls with these horrible limiting beliefs that hold people back, or whether it's, an illness that they just can't get rid of. My heart breaks for all the pain in the world. And if I could have a superpower, I would just help people heal it.
Yeah, I think you do that with all your posts and all your presence, right? So
There was a producer of a TV show. I didn't end up working with him because he was on the West Coast. It's too far away because I have kids
yeah.
here. But he said, I don't see you as a coach. I see you as a healer. And I think your show could be about that. I'm like, well, I don't want to be one of those weirdos, on TV. Sorry for the judgment, anybody that does that. It's just not who I am. I didn't want
Yeah.
to be like, come to me and I'll heal you. But he's right in that I facilitate healing.
Hmm.
I facilitate healing from the pain, the trauma, the limiting beliefs. One of the reasons I'm doing this rapid transformational therapy is because we do carry pain with us and it affects us in ways we don't even realize. When you get up to give a big presentation at work or as an entrepreneur, if you go to give a pitch
Yeah.
and somebody's talking and you make it mean, you have your whole story. Oh, when I was in high school, people made fun of me and now I can't speak publicly. There are all of these ridiculous things that hold us back. And we carry pain and we don't even realize it, but it prevents us from being our best. And so, yeah, I would
Yeah.
really like to help people with that.
I love the analogy too, because we talked about band-aids, we talked about healing, right? Which is really what
Right,
you're doing as a coach is you're sort of healing
right,
some, we all carry
right.
scars and wounds. So yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. So
But again, going back to perception is reality, if I put
yeah.
myself out there, I'm a
Oh yeah, as a
healer.
healer.
I
Yeah.
would get, I
Yeah.
would I would attract clients. They'd be different kinds of clients, not
Yes.
exactly what I do.
No, no. It would be a little different. Yeah. We'd be curious to see who shows up. So worst piece of you're a mom, you can't do that advice you've proved wrong.
Mm, mm. Oh my gosh. Who do you think you are? I remember maybe an early podcast I did. A man said to me, how do you deal with the perception? Like she's a Barbie, how can she help me? And
Wow.
I'm like, you went there. I'm like, good for you, buddy. I'm glad you said that. I'm like, your biggest mistake will be to underestimate me. And I think that I've carried with me. It's a chip on my shoulder that actually fuels me. The high performance and executive coaching industry have long been run by stodgy white men.
Yeah.
And I was told, you need to tone down your image. You should pull your hair back, wear less makeup, put glasses on. I've been told all of this misogynistic BS about who I was allowed to be. And yes, I've gotten ridiculous DMs. DMs are direct messages for anybody that doesn't know that. I didn't know that before I did social media. Where are your children? Like I'll have a picture of me. I did a speaking engagement in Istanbul. Where are your children? How many times do people ask men that?
Yeah.
And how is that relevant? My kids are
Mm.
taken care of. I'm an excellent mother. Me being an excellent coach, strategist, speaker, author does not diminish my ability to be an amazing parent. And that is ridiculous that in this day and age, that's still coming up. Where are your kids? I don't know. Where are yours, buddy?
Yeah.
Like, come
Exactly.
on,
When was
people.
the last time you saw them? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It is frustrating to me that that still exists. But yeah, that's something that I've had to overcome. And I try, instead of using it as frustration, I use it as fuel. Okay, get out there and prove them wrong. When someone says you can't do it, think, watch me, and let
Yeah.
your actions speak for you.
Power to you. Don't change anything. Don't listen to all those
Yeah.
fools, is what I would
Just
say.
like you put blinders on for your laser focus, you have to put
Yeah.
earmuffs on. And unless that person is positive, do not listen. There's good feedback, there's constructive feedback, but that is very different than the noise, the doubters, and the haters. And the unfortunate part about building a brand is the higher you climb, the bigger your target, and people will hate. And there's a great thing, especially on social media, called block and delete. Get
Yeah.
rid of the haters, you don't need them.
Right. True. Ignore them. Well, in our community, we're not going to allow them in. We're going to delete them and get rid
Amen.
of them. Yeah. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's kind of how I want the Boost Solo community to be. So we'll put up our wall, our blinkers, and our walls.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Julie, it's been awesome talking to you. I really enjoyed our conversation. I feel like I got some master coaching too, gotten over my selfie fear. So I'm going to tag you on my first post.
Yes,
Just know that.
yes, tag me and be like, Julie challenged me to do this because it empowers other people. It won't just empower you, it will empower all of those solopreneurs out there listening to this that see your post, and they will have to look at their inner BS too.
Yeah.
Again, it's not about you. If the LinkedIn algorithm does better with personal pictures or selfies and you get your message out to more people, it is worth it. So yeah, step beyond it, do it, make it happen. It is the first time is always the hardest.
True.
Once you do it, you'll get used to it. And then you know what? Again, if anybody's hateful, delete them, block them, get rid of them. We don't need them. Only positive people.
Yeah, no, and I just have to be careful. My wife tells me don't get too used to putting yourself out there and looking
Oh
at
yeah.
your own picture and enjoying it. So, I have to find my balance. Yeah, but
Yeah, you do. And you know what? I have totally made mistakes.
yeah,
I put out pictures early on that were like, I didn't have any pictures, professional pictures, other than my yoga world when I first started. So that was confusing a bit because the only professional pictures I had was yoga. Then when the selfie movement started happening, I'm like, okay, that works. I can do that. Then I got, a lot of professional headshots, all of that. That's an evolution as well. Early on, I talked about my family and my kids too much.
yeah,
I had pictures of us. Since then, I've talked to my kids. Now, my daughter's on LinkedIn. She's getting a job. That's really important for her. She is fine with me putting pictures of her.
right.
My youngest son does not want to be on there. I
Yeah,
put one picture of him up in probably the last year, other than like a Christmas picture, and I asked him for his permission. So I've made mistakes. We all do. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to put things out there that maybe aren't your best. And then you know what? You can leave them and live and learn, or you can delete them too.
yes,
Yeah, there's so much power in what we can do, whether it's on a website, on a podcast, on content on social media. Whatever you're putting out in the world is not going to be perfect, but you can't perfect anything unless you start.
absolutely. Brilliant words to end on because until you do it, you won't learn how to do it, right?
Right.
So I completely
Yeah.
agree. Julie, it's
Well,
been
thank you
awesome.
for having me.
Well, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. That wraps up another episode of Unfiltered Solopreneur. I would love to hear your thoughts about today's conversation. Let's continue the discussion in the comments below or on LinkedIn at Boost Solo. If you're looking to connect with like-minded solopreneurs and take your business to the next level, join our Boost Solo community. And if you're ready to turn your expertise into a story that sells, book a free strategy session at boostsolo.com. Remember, your story is your most valuable asset. Live solo or die corporate.